Alright, so another MCU project, another video, right? Yeah, I'll always check out the latest MCU project to just see how it's doing. But I don't feel the need to now, make a video for each one going forward, since I just don't feel everyone connects with the franchise now. With this being the last one for some people that they'll check out, and maybe from a part of the next Avengers films. But I still really want to cover this one, since it's a part of the MCU I've always loved, and is by far from one of my favourite directors. That is James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 3. So let's just get into it. This film, also known as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or to just me, Guardians 3, as mentioned, is the latest MCU film from this year. This is at the minute the final in its trilogy, and is the 32nd film in the franchise. It was written and directed by Gunn. There'll be spoilers ahead, so click off this video by 3, 2, 1. Alright, this film follows the team as Quill is trying to get over the loss of the old Gamora, while the team tries to once again defend the universe and even one of their own, Rocket, which makes this mission even more threatening to them. For the cast, we have the main cast return, which is Chris Pratt as Quill, Bradley Cooper as Rocket, Zoe Saldana as Gamora, who helps out the team for money since she is now a Ravager, but overall comes to respect the team in the end. Dave Bautista as Drax, who overall is the typical self that he is, but he finds a purpose on the team as a father figure to the kids they save at the end. Karen Gillian plays Nebula, who is still her typical self but becomes to start trying to be a bit more polite to people in the end. Pom Klemm returns as Mantis, who overall realizes at the end of the film that she needs to find her own purpose in life. Vin Diesel as Groot, who is still kind of just Groot, really. There's nothing really to add for his character here. Sean Gunn as Kreglin, who gets to finally learn how to use the Yaka arrow. Maria Balkova as Cosmo, who wants to prove to Kreglin that she is a good dog since, he called her a bad one at the start of the film. Sylvester Stallone as Stakar Ogorad, who is still a Ravager. Greg Henry as Quill's granddad, who he finally visits at the end of the film. And even Michael Rooker briefly appears as Yondu to inspire Kreglin in the end. For newcomers, we have Will Porter as Adam Warlock, who was teased in the credits of the last movie, but was released too early so they can try and capture Rocket. Chuguki Owachi plays the High Evolutionary, who is the one who made Rocket become who he is and try and build the perfect world to be their god, essentially. Linda Carandli plays Lila, who is one of Rocket's old friends when he was a test subject, and they are also an otter. And finally, we have Nathan Fillion finally joining as Master Karaja, who works for the Ogo Corp, who secures a part of the High Evolutionary's headquarters. First hint of a Guardians 3 was from Gunn all the way back after the release of the first film, in November 2014, that in addition to knowing the story for the second, that he also had ideas for a third one too. However, he was unsure if he would actually make this film, saying in June 2015 that it depended on how he felt after finishing the first sequel. A month before the release of the film in March 2017, he would go on to confirm that he would make a third after all, but was still unsure about actually directing, with maybe just writing with him needing a couple of weeks to think on it. It's been revealed that this was because he was unsure about working without Michael Rooker after killing off Yondu in the previous film, since the two work on most of his projects together. Thankfully, he would announce the next month that he would both direct and write the film, while also revealing it would be set after both Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, while giving us a conclusion to this version of the team, which would show the future of the characters old and new in the MCU. He also felt that this would work overall as a trilogy, with saying that all of them tell one story, with this third one tying things together. He was set to begin work on the film after completing his work as executive producer on Infinity War. After being originally included in the early scripts for the second film and just making the birth of Warlock being teased in a credit scene, both Gunn and Feige noted that the importance of the character in the cosmic side of the Marvel and hinted he would in fact appear in number 3. A month after confirming he would direct, Gunn would say making this film would take around 3 years, overall hinting on a release of 2020, and also confirmed Pom would return as Mantis, with hinting at Elizabeth Debicki returning as Yesha, which she did to serve as a mother role to Warlock. He would then complete the first script treatment by mid-June, and also considered changing a piece of character info he put in the background of the mugshot scene in the first film. He re-said in September that the film would take around 3 years, with a private set release date being May 1st, 2020. Into the year after, he met with Mark Hamill in February 2018, about possibly appearing, which unfortunately didn't happen. Also, no, that was not him in the holiday special either. That April, Pratt was set to return as Quill, with Bautista set to return as Drax by the next month. The company would receive the first official draft of the script from Gunn by the end of that June, before pre-production of the film would start beginning. Unfortunately, in the next month, specifically July 20th, 2018, the company cut ties with the director. This came after a resurgence in older tweets which joked about some serious topics, which would not be tolerated these days, with people calling for him to be fired, which he ultimately did. Some people in Disney, such as CEO Bob Iger, weren't a part of this decision to fire Gunn, but did see why the decision was overall made. Funnily enough, the director responded in tweets, where essentially saying his job was to make movies with jokes that were outrageous, but felt that he has developed since then, especially with his humour. Overall being a different man, however, also said he understands and accepts the decisions that were made by the companies, where he also stated that he will always take full responsibility of what he past said. In response, many of the Guardians cast members supported the director on the platform, with even Rucker leaving, with fans also signed for an online petition for Gunn to be reinstated, which garnered 300,000 signatures. Of course, other celebrities and news coverage made reactions out of this, and how social media could heavily affect Hollywood going forward too. 10 days after his firing, the main stars of the film, including Pratt, Saldana, Bautista, Cooper, Diesel, Kalameth, Rucker, Gillian, and his brother Sean posted the following on social media. We fully support James Gunn. We have all shocked by his abrupt firing last week and intentionally waited these 10 days to respond in order to think, pray, listen, and discuss. In that time, we've been encouraged by the outpouring of support from fans and members of the media who wish to see James reinstated as director on Volume 3, as well as discouraged by those so easily duped into believing the main outlandish conspiracy theories surrounding him. Overall, most supported Gunn, but Disney stuck down guns, with Variety reporting that the company were not planning to rehire him, even going to mention #MeToo movement. Even then, they also went on to say that they had not yet met with anyone to replace him. Bautista would go on to say in early August 2018 that he would appear in the film if the company still used the director's existing script for the film. This was soon confirmed to still be the case, with the company wanting to move forward quickly with the film. With using his script and him technically being fired, with not breaching his contract since the tweets were written years before he signed on to the franchise, Gunn would still get paid from $7 to $10 million, with hopes that in negotiations about his settlement could lead to him coming back. However, nothing seemed to have happened, with the director now free to move on to new projects, which made other major studios be interested in hiring him, which of course included Warner Bros., who owns DC, while Marvel studio executives, being inspired with what the cast had to say, were also beginning to have conversations with Disney to hopefully find a way for him to return. This then resulted in Gunn meeting with Disney chairman Alan F. Horn after his talent agency once again pushed for the chairman to give him a second chance. This overall was civil and professional, with Horn possibly be going back to Disney about their initial decision. Later in the month, a small crew that was preparing for pre-production were dismissed due to production being postponed for the company to find a replacement. This pre-production would have begun at the end of the year, with filming set to begin either January or February of 2019. However, at the time, Bautista started to have second thoughts, saying that he was unsure about returning to Disney at all with how they handled firing Gunn. By September 2018, Sean commented saying that Disney intended to still use his brother's script, and that they were yet to tell the cast when they would continue production. Around the same time, Cooper was asked if he would consider directing the film after the successful film A Star is Born, but said no due to him not imagining directing something he did not write, which honestly is fair enough. Gunn himself by October was set to write and possibly direct the new Suicide Squad film for Warner Bros. Literally a day after he joined to work on the film for DC, he was privately notified by Horn that he could return as director for their film. The director would then go on to have meetings with the studio, with Horn admitting he changed his mind after being impressed with how he responded to the firing. For the studio, however, Gunn would still show that he was committed to making his film for DC to Feige, with production for the new Guardians film put on hold until February 2021 so he could commit to his new project. In December 2018, Adam McKay, who also worked on the Ant-Man script, admitted he was willing to work with Marvel again, that he was in discussions to actually replace Gunn as director. By early next year, in 2019, both Feige and Pratt would go on to reconfirm they were still making the film, and by March it was publicly revealed that Gunn was rehired as director. By the end of the next month, in April, the main stars were expected to return and filming would take place in 2020. When talked about the whole situation in May, Gunn said that the element he most missed about being cut from the film originally was what they were wanting to do with Rocket. This is clearly his favourite member of the team, with him feeling that they were kind of the same. Even then, the director originally considered telling the members' origin through a team-up movie simply between him and Groot, but also felt he needed to conclude Quill's story first. The same month, Gillian confirmed that she was returned for the film and expressed her excitement about Gunn returning. By the June, Saldana was asked about her character's story in the latest Avengers films, and being killed to then have a younger version of her come to the modern timeline, with her saying she would love for the character to return to the team, with her also being the most lethal woman in the galaxy as she was originally described as. The director was then asked about this in October, with him even being asked if he was unhappy about the decision being made, with him saying no and that he discussed the storyline with the studio beforehand. Even then, according to Infinity War Endgame writers Christopher Marcus and Steve McFeely, both brought back her past self so that Gunn could include her in the next film. Being asked if he could return as Yondu back in February 2020, Gunn said that it would take away from Yondu's sacrifice in the second film, and that the character would only really return for a prequel or a flashback. Then in April he said that COVID would not be affecting plans for production at that time, by saying that the film would release a little later 2021 the next month. In August he then turned in a new script draft for the film, while he's also beginning to write Peacemaker for DC. The next month he was planning to begin work on the film after completing work on his new DC film and show. He then confirmed in November that he had completed the final script for this film and that little changes had been made from his initial ideas. It was given a 2023 release date a month later, with filming set to begin in late 2021. It was also said to be set after the holiday special for the team, which would release in 2022. Pre-production work overall creating the designs and visuals for the film began by April 2021. In the early May, Marvel would then announce that the film would be released on May 5th, 2023, with Gunn further saying later on in the month that it would be set after Fall of and Thunder 2, with it also featuring scenes of the Guardians, which concludes the storyline established in Endgame with Thor briefly joining the team. He would go on to say that this was decided since he did not plan for the Avenger to actually feature in his film. He would then begin storyboarding the film by June, with filming later revealed to begin in November 2021 at Atlanta, Georgia, for an expected finish at around April 2022. Bautista would then go on to say that he had not yet read the script for the film and was unsure if it even changed during the production delays. Within the next month, Gillian saying that her and Clemeth read the script together, saying that they both found it incredible, brilliant, emotional and funny, with her also adding that she felt that this was the director's strongest work yet with these characters. The director would go on to reinstate that his script practically stayed the same from the 3 years prior, with the changes mainly being in the way he played with the story over the years. By the end of the month, he would then say that this was a heavier story than the previous films, with a more grounded approach, which was inspired by his work on his DC projects. Originally the villain of the film would be the Fantastic Four villain Annihilus, but he only decided to switch the role with the High Evolutionary. He also originally wrote a cameo for his friend Kumail Nanjiani, but it was then removed after he found out that he was cast as Kingo in Eternals. By late August, him and the studio began meeting with actors to play the role of Warlock, with Poulter, George McKay and Regé-Jean Page being considered for the role. Poulter personally auditioned via Zoom before having an in-person screen test with Gunn in Atlanta. In his first audition, he was unaware of the character's name. The only information he really knew about the character was that he was teased in Volume 2's credit scene. In the September, Gillian gave the same thoughts on the film's script and said it will develop all the characters from the previous films on a deeper level, with even Seth Green, who voices Howard the Duck in the MCU, saying that the film would be more about Gamora and Nebula's story, while also saying he was unsure if his character would cameo in the film like the previous ones. Poulter was finally cast in the next month, with Gunn saying a lot of other roles had already been cast too. Poulter himself was chosen to be Warlock because of his dramatic and comedic abilities, with Gunn also wanting someone who was youthful, which would fit into Marvel's plans for the character in the future. Pratt would go on to start rehearsals and camera tests later on in the month, with a production meeting being held in early November. This was just before filming began on the 8th at Triller Studios in Atlanta. Henry Brown served as cinematographer after doing so on Volume 2 and the holiday special. During the beginning of filming, Sylvester Stallone revealed that he would be returning as a character, and Gunn also posted a photo of the main cast members, which included Chewiki, confirming that the two would be working on each other again after Peacemaker. The actor's screen test was actually done on set of the DC show being filmed from that show's crew too, which ended up with Marvel later letting Gunn film Ezra Miller's part of the Justice League cameo in the show's finale on the Guardian set too. Production designer Beth Mickle has said that Gunn mainly wanted to use practical effects on the film after they mainly did so on the Suicide Squad. The director would also go on to reveal in February 2022 that they will be shooting on Industrial Light and Magic stagecraft technology too, which is mainly famously known for being used on The Mandalorian, while also being used on Love and Thunder too. However, this did not end up actually being used, with him saying in October that the sets were too big for it. The holiday special was filmed during the months of February to late April with the same cast, crew and sets. Gunn enjoyed filming this after some scenes of the third film, just because of the two different tones they have. Also saying since this new film is way more emotional, it felt that it gave the actors some relief too, overall making the special easier to shoot. As many know by now, this is the first MCU film to say the word fuck uncensored, which was said by Quill. Overall, this was not scripted but improvised by Pratt on set, which made them laugh to where it was thought maybe to just be cut, since it might have just been unexpected to them on set and not actually funny in the film, or even let Groot somehow say the word, but overall he stuck to Pratt's unexpected use of dropping it. Overall, filming wrapped on May 6, 2022. By June, it was revealed that Daniela Melchior would have a small role in the film after starring in Gunn's DC film as well. Becky was also confirmed to reprise in a role as Aisha, with Valkova being revealed to be in the film also. The next month, both her and Yuichi's roles were then revealed as the High Evolutionary and Cosmo. A month after that, Michael Rosenbaum revealed that he'd be also returning as Martex from Volume 2 as well. Then in October, it was confirmed that Balkova would be making her MCU debut as Cosmo in the holiday special. Moving to this year, in April, it was confirmed that Linda would be voicing Lila in the film, with already playing Laura Barton in the live action for MCU, while also being the live action Velma Dinkley in the classic Scooby-Doo films, which were wrote by Gunn. Oh, and she did also have a cameo in the 2010 film Super 2, which again was made by Gunn. Around the same time, reshoots were also filmed, with later on in the month Tara Strong being cast as an unknown Roan, which would eventually be revealed to be Mainframe, which yes did replace Miley Cyrus, who originally voiced the character in Volume 2. Effects in this film were by Framestar, Waiter FX, Sony Pictures Imageworks, Industrial Light and Magic, Rodeo FX, Rise FX, Crafty Apes, BUF, Lola VFX, Perception, and Compuire. Stephanie Savetti returned to be visual effects supervisor after being so on the first film, with Fred Vraskin returned from both the first films as editor along with Greg Diarra, who edited the holiday special. Moving on to one of the most important elements of these films, the music. In April 2017, Gunn felt the music would be different from the previous two films' soundtrack. By that July, he would then narrow down his song choices to 181, but noted it would actually also grow again possibly. The final selections of the song were then selected the next month. The songs still aren't too modern, with all being played through Quill's Zune, which he received at the end of the second film. Even then, this meant that they could also use songs outside of the 70s, unlike the previous films also. The song the director did want to use was Russian Roulette by the Lords of the New Church, but he couldn't due to a legal battle over its ownership. A thought he also did have at the start when he was writing Volume 2 was having Dog Days Are Over play during the end of the trilogy, since he was a fan of that Florence and the Machine album titled Lungs. Composition work, Gunn revealed in October 2021 that John Murphy would be composer and already recorded music to be played on set during filming. Murphy overall replaced Tyler Bates, who composed the first two films, however his theme was then reused in parts. Murphy also replaced him as composer of the Suicide Squad after he left that project during production. The tracklist for the film was revealed in April of this year and was made available to stream on Spotify and Apple Music on the 3rd. The film's soundtrack was released by Hollywood Records on CD on May 3rd, then on vinyl on May 5th, and is expected to release on cassette on July 7th. For promotions, the film was discussed at Marvel's 2022 San Diego Comic-Con panel, where first footage was shown, with Yuichi also appearing in costume. Gunn would go on to say that this footage was not yet released online because the effects were not completed, enough to be repeated over and over to be inspected by, the very big YouTube channels that do so with every MCU film, and pretty much all films in general. The official trailer was released on December 1st during CCXP. A second trailer was then released during the Super Bowl on February 12th of this year. The trailer overall made 134.1 million views across social media and was the most watched Super Bowl trailer. This is also the first time a trailer for the game made 100 million views in its first 24-hour period since COVID. Marvel Music partnered with Spotify in May to promote the film. As part of the promotion, they created a playlist named KGOTG Radio Experience. The studios promoted the film with the cereal company General Mills with limited edition Honey Nut Cheerios, Cookie Crisp, Lucky Charms, Trix, Reese's Puffs, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Go-Gurt. Microsoft then partnered with the company with a new limited edition Zune. The film had its premiere at Disneyland Paris, funnily enough on my birthday of this year, specifically April 22nd, then had its North American premiere at the Dolby Theatre in Hollywood on April 27th. The film was then released in several countries including the UK on May 3rd, and the US getting it on May 5th. It is a part of Phase 5 of the MCU. Disney released over 600 unique versions of the film as well to theaters, which were mostly in variable aspect ratios. As of the 18th of May, the film has grossed $234.5 million in the US and $315 million everywhere else, overall making $549.6 million. It overall made $48.2 million in its first day, including $17.5 million from its previous night previews. Outside the US, the film has made $168.1 million in its opening weekend, and it has then made $92 million in its second weekend. Specifically, it's made $58.4 million in China, $29.6 million in the UK, $24.8 million in Mexico, $22.1 million in South Korea, and $18.3 million in France. Critically, Rotten Tomatoes has given it 82% based on 349 reviews, and Metacritic has given it a 64 out of 100 based on 62 reviews. For the future of the Guardians films, Gunn said all the way back in April 2017 originally that a fourth one could happen, but would likely centre on a new group of characters since he planned to conclude the story of the team we have already been following. Then went on to say in September that it was unlikely he would actually return for another Guardians film, but noted he could actually work in some way with Marvel on the future projects that use the team or other cosmic characters. He then confirmed in September 2019 that this was the case and it was the last Guardians film, which he restated in May 2021. Although actors such as Gillian has expressed interest in playing Nebula after the film in July 2021, while Zaldana has confirmed this April that this is the last MCU film for her, but hoped Marvel could possibly recast her as Gamora to make the character stick around in the future. A month after, Pratt talked mostly about returning if there was a good script, since he was unsure about carrying on without Gunn, though in the credit scenes of the film it does say the legendary Star-Lord will return. Focusing solely on this film, however, it is everything we hoped it would be, and I'm happy this is the banger that people want to go out with the MCU. The film just has the same charm and humour as the first two ones, while being the most impersonal for myself, which now makes it my favourite in the trilogy and my new favourite in this franchise. The plot just goes full ahead with being engaging from start to finish, making sure to give us breathing spaces at the right times between comedy and drama. This is another actual good film about family, redemption, and sacrifice. Rocket and Quill are for sure the most focus on the film. All members of the team, even other characters, have great story arcs too. Mention the characters the cast do give a phenomenal job to, especially again from every actor who played Rocket, Pratt as Quill, and even Saldana interestingly had to go back to playing Gamora as if she had even had one step behind from where she was in the first film, where she still sticks to the ways but overall respects this team. Even then, my problem never has really been how Bautista plays Drax, but my problem from the second film to this one is that I felt this character got too comedic, which yes is a big part of what made him popular in the team, but I'm really glad this time around they made some respect out of him. Gunn has always proved to be a top-notch director and honestly the best director for comic book films, with providing stunning cinematography along with respected production design, which has been known to be in this trilogy. The effects too are actually consistent and great throughout, which is a relief after recent MCU projects. I would say I agree with some people that the soundtrack isn't as good as the previous two. However, I still loved it and felt a lot of songs rile me up, making me tap my feet in happiness, or even sadness in some cases. Also, just loved the edits of how it faded the music in and out with it kicking in, just in general really. This is for sure my first 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 from the MCU to me, and I just love this film. So yeah, honestly, again, I love this film. That was the whole making from what we know about this film, along with my thoughts has just been said. I really want to know any additional facts that you guys maybe have about this. Please comment them down below, even with your own thoughts about the film. If you didn't like the film, please tell me why. I would love to hear various thoughts about films a lot. And honestly, that's why I like making these videos. I like to talk about any type of film, really, any type of show, and even in some cases, any type of game. And just get to look into the making of them, give them my own thoughts on it. And then at the end of the day, it is nice to get likes, comments, subscriptions, but overall making these videos is what makes me happy. But I will reframe, please do like the video if you did like, comment down below your thoughts in general of what I just said, and yeah, also please subscribe if you've been watching MCU videos in the past. I do know the intro kind of was like, oh, I'm not really going to make any, but I will make future MCU videos. I probably just won't make a video straight away about each one after watching them, if you get what I mean. But yeah, that's all I really have to say. For the third time, I really love this film. I'm so glad this is the film that people get to end off with the MCU in their own right. I'm still going to check them out as mentioned, but yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you for whatever I cover next.